What's up, people? Another episode of the Horns Down Podcast, Sooners 360, and the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast, right? All three together, 3 for 1, right here. Your guy, Kchris with a K. You got Chris Mason on here. And people, please, as you already know, Jason is on his way. He'll be right back. Definitely going to be a good episode tonight. We're going to talk some OU recruiting, talk about this new OU OC search, right? Talk about the Alabama OU game. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch that video that I dropped yesterday with Ty Hayes from Around the Table Sports, just previewing the Alabama OU matchup this weekend. Definitely excited for that. Chris Mason, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing fine.
You're doing good. You're doing good. I'm glad you're doing good. We are glad that you're here as well. I think, let's see, Daniel Looney, he says, how's recruiting? Okay, well, you know what? We're gonna start with that.
Okay.
Who's all coming to the game this weekend? Here's Jason, people.
So this is a working list. I think more folks may show up on by the time the list gets published. Lists get published a little bit later, but I'll just go through some names that I think are kind of important. It's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot of kids there for the most part, but I'm gonna go through I've got like 8 names here, which I think are kind of overall very important for OU. So the first name, he's supposed to be there, is Jaden O'Neal. He just visited Colorado. Should be back in Norman this weekend. His high school team has gone through this weird thing where their opponents in their league were forfeiting games to their high school because of some outrage over player recruiting or something. So Jaden O'Neal's basically been sitting, not playing, for the last 4 weeks, but his team has been racking up wins. So now they're heading to the playoffs, and he was back. He played last week for the first time in 5 weeks, had 400 yards passing, like 72% completion rate, 4 or 5 touchdowns. So he'll be back. So that's a big thing. I think it'd be nice for Brent. Ideally, if I was Brent and I had my potential 5-star quarterback for the next recruiting class in 2026 in Norman for the weekend, I think I might like to be able to tell him who his offensive coordinator might be. But that's a topic we'll get to a little bit later. Trent Wilson, the 2025 defensive tackle's back on campus. He's from the Maryland area, so getting him back on campus again on his own dime right before signing day is huge because I love this kid, and he's the only defensive tackle in the class right now. So his profile's become even bigger. Cortland Guillory, the cornerback from the Houston area who Texas has been fighting to try and flip, should be back on campus as well. So those are the 2 big 2025 names, I think. Then going back to 2026, Deuce Gerald's, the defensive tackle, 5-star from Georgia, should be back on campus again for his 3rd OU game, and I think his 5th trip to Norman this year. Then we should have the monstrous offensive guard combination from Texas of Toa Katoa, the 6'4", 360 offensive guard from Euless Trinity. And then Pulelite Primus, the offensive guard from the Midland area. He's 6'5", 320, maybe 325, just also huge, just a big physical beast. So that's 2 offensive linemen 2026 that, we'd love to see as part of the 2026 class. A couple of big bruising interior guys for the future. Then you got a 2027 linebacker from Tampa area called Caden Henderson. He is a 5-star top 30 player in the nation for 2027 right now. He camped at OU this summer, received his offer then, and looks fantastic. He's 6'1", 6'2", 215. As 2027, so he'll be getting even bigger. Along with Cooper Witten, he's OU's probably other top linebacker target for 2027. And then recruiting never stops. I got one 2028 name for you, and it is Terrence Evans from Tulsa Union. He is a high school freshman. defensive tackle, and he is 6'3", 320 pounds. And his film looks really good. It's a matter of time before he gets an OU offer. But if you're right now, it looks like in-state for, I mentioned this, if you're not following me on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, you already know this, but I mentioned this, is that in-state 2026, you have Taj Overton. 2027, Taj Overton from Owasso, OU offer. Then for 2027, you had Joseph Graves from Booker T. Washington, whose dad actually was a high school prospect that I tracked back in the late 2000s, Pearly Graves. But he's had a fantastic sophomore season at Booker T. Washington. And now you have Terrence Evans at Union, who's 6'3", as I said, 320, and has offers from Auburn and Ole Miss already. He'll get an OU offer soon, I think probably in January, once his freshman year, sort of his freshman football year ends. So, but you've got three, I would say, top 100, top 150 type defensive tackles in the state of Oklahoma in back-to-back years. OU's never been that lucky recently in recruiting. So there'll be more names probably added, and more names probably will be showing up. But that gives you that's 8. That's a cross section of 8 interesting names and important names, I think, for 25, 26, and some names to look out for the future.
So I think a lot of people are wondering about Marion Robertson. Is he going to be there this weekend?
He is not. He's never been scheduled to be there. I've never seen a post from him saying that he was going to be there. He was at a recent game a couple of weeks ago. So obviously Arkansas is trying to make a big push. He went to go see the Arkansas-Texas game, took an unofficial visit there. Arkansas is obviously making a big push. We'll see if they can really get anywhere with that. They obviously didn't have a good day against Texas on Saturday. They played them pretty well. But I think Amarian Robinson things will get tight. And he's one of the guys everybody's targeting because, he's a top 100 player on Rivals. I think he's an excellent safety. Obviously, Arkansas does not want OU to kind of get a pipeline going in Arkansas.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty inevitable, right?
Well, Marcus Wimberly there's no doubt in my mind Marcus Wimberly is going to be a Sooner. I think he's locked in. But Amarian, obviously is a higher ranked guy. If you're Arkansas, you're just not going to be able to stand watching him making plays for Brandon Hall at safety at OU for the next 4 years. So that one, I can understand that, them going all out to try and stop that from happening. But I think he, if we're going to use a flip panic level meter here, I would say on Amarian Robinson, I would say it's about a 3. A 3 out of 10.
You bring up the word flip, and obviously we have to bring up Fasusi.
Yep.
I know that seems like we're going to be beating a dead horse over the head with that one, but where are you gauging that at with the obviously the Twitter rants, the Twitter news that he's going to go to the Texas A&M game, he's going to go see Texas do this or whatever the case may be. You've been on both of our pods. You've been on your pod, your Patreon, constantly saying people like Texas is going to push really hard for this kid because they have been all year. They have been. It's like nothing has changed. It's just a simple fact that we're having a bad season. Okay, Beatonbow is still here. That's his guy. Family loves him. Family loves the atmosphere at OU. You've said that time and time again. So where are we at as far as the flip watch with Fasusi?
So I think folks need to there needs to be something in context here about him making these visits. Is Louisville lost in the high school playoffs last weekend? Okay, so his senior year's done. So he's kind of got free time he probably didn't think he would have, right? Because he would have thought his team was making a playoff run. So I think that's part of the visit part is like, well, I'm free, so maybe I should catch a couple, maybe I should just let some guys wine and dine me and catch a couple of ball games, right? And maybe I should just, go to a couple of places and see some football games. If it was just the Texas A&M game, I would not be that worried because if I was him, And if Texas A&M wanted to give me a couple of free tickets to go see Texas A&M, and I didn't have anything going on Thanksgiving weekend, I could understand that. That would make sense to me. Thanks, Jimmy Satterfield. That would make a lot of sense to me. So he may be taking his buddy Hutton with him to the A&M game. I think Hutton's locked into OU and is really kind of if they go to the A&M game, I think that's kind of like, well, we're just, let me see if I can get us, some premium tickets and, get a little hospitality from A&M on my visit, and let's have a good time, watching that Texas A&M game. So I can understand that if I was a high school teenager and my high school season was over. So I think this is all about Bill Bedenbaugh. If Fasusi's just taking a look at a couple of places in case Bill isn't retained and his family decides that Oklahoma is no longer the place for him. So on a panic level, he's taking 2 visits to 2 big OU rivals who have big money, NIL, desperately would take a 5-star. I mean, everybody in the country would take Michael Fasusi tomorrow. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. So I would say if you want the panic number here, if Amarian Robinson is a 3, I would say Michael Fasusi is at a 5.
Okay.
I mean, it's basically, and the way I give 5, it's 50-50, right? OU, whoever OU hires, or if Bill resigns or decides to leave, or the person says, I can't work with Bill, and something falls before signing day, and Fasusi knows that, then I think it's 50-50 whether he stays with OU in the OU class, depending upon what happens. But I think if Bill stays, and we can get to the whole OC debate a little bit later, we plan on talking about that, I think Michael Fasusi ends up being a Sooner and signs with OU. So this is one of the reasons why Brent says that, sooner rather than later, right? Let's get this done. And along those lines is because really Brent needs to start letting the recruits know who's staying, who's going, and who's coming in. I think Brent, perhaps to his detriment, is too classy a guy. He's not going to let a bunch of high school kids sign with OU and then 30 days later pull a bait and switch on them.
Come on, man. Lincoln did. Jeremiah Cradell, he committed and nobody knew who the hell the DC was going to be.
A lot, man.
It does.
Did anything surprise you, especially in the NIL era? Come on.
No. But sadly, I think, or to his credit, however you want to view it, I don't see Brett being that kind of guy like, hey, dude, you just signed in with me. You're taking my check. You'll be coached by who I tell you you're freaking coached. I don't see Brent working that way.
Let me tell you why I believe Kchris Mason, because I guess I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm just put my chest out a little bit on this one. The way that Williams when everything was handled, the way that recruiting fiasco went down and everything. I remember my uncle called me and he said, I was never worried about Winery. I had about an ounce of hope left, but he said, I listened to, this is when Kchris was on with Barry and all them every Tuesday or Monday or so on Twitter Spaces or whatnot.
Yep.
And he said, hey, they tell you every single week, people, move on. You're just leading yourself down a dead end. Move on. And Kchris Mason said that for about a month and a half, maybe even longer, just like that. That's done. That's a done deal. We're not getting that kid. So that's happened a couple of other times as well, where Hicks, right? So I think those are other times as well. So people for sure definitely listen. If Kchris Mason is saying, hey, look, it's at a 5 simply because we just need to make sure that we keep beating Bo around, that should make you feel pretty good. So that's why.
If you want a national recruiting opinion, Steve Wiltfong says he thinks that OU is going to hold on to Fasusi.
That's true.
It's well known that Wiltfong has close ties with Mike Elko and the A&M staff. So if A&M thought they were landing him, they had thought they were landing him, Wilt Fong would be parroting that back from Mike Elko, and that's not the case. It's not. That's not what's happening. So, I think there's a possibility that this kind of got away from Mike Fasusi. He told A&M, "Yeah, I'll come to your game against Kentucky." He's like, maybe I don't want. Maybe I've been to Norman already a couple of times this fall. I want to do something different. And it just got blown up, right? Because Texas sites all were like, "We're flipping Michael Fasusi," right? So they went into their usual Texas overdrive in recruiting, and then it kind of blown up. So it wouldn't shock me if he decides, this is all just kind of a pain in the ass. I told Hutton I get his tickets to go see A&M next week. I'm just going to do that instead. So so it wouldn't shock me if that happened too. So it is what it is. You've got to make the case. I do think OU needs to be, in general, with the 2025 verbals, needs to be very close with all of their agents and making their agents aware NIL deals are all good. Everything's locked in place. Let us know if we need to. Let us know if you're getting pushed from folks, because we're gonna match. We're gonna match. We're not gonna lose our top guys. Nebraska is apparently trying to flip Cortez Mills. That's been reported by 247. Colin Kennedy over there. If I'm Nebraska's throwing around quite a lot of NIL money. They somehow flipped a linebacker from Alabama, Dawson Merritt, from the Kansas City area. Now, Cortez Mills is from Florida, so there's not quite. A Kansas City linebacker going to Nebraska, okay, there's a certain distance thing that kind of makes sense there a little bit. Cortez Mills is from Florida, though, and I don't think there's anything. Nebraska, since they choked and lost to USC, I think they made. I'm not sure who their last game is, but they're like us. They're in danger of not going bowling, and they haven't been to a bowl since 2016. We've been to a bowl. We haven't not been to a bowl since 1998.
Now this is not to knock Nebraska, because our offense hasn't really shown up any really this year. We've seen spurts of good play, but now Holderson is up there, and don't get me wrong, he just took over, and I'm sure next year should be better. I would say it should, right?
Well, there's no guarantee he's getting that job full time either.
Oh, they didn't.
He's in. To the best of my knowledge, he's the interim guy.
Well, regardless, I will say this: that offense does not look explosive anymore. It looks like they're just trying to.
Riola looks lost. He does.
Yeah. It's jet sweep after jet sweep after jet sweep, and occasionally pass to a tight end over the middle. It just doesn't look like how it looked in the earlier this season. But with that being said, we got those guys coming to the game. I think
there might be some more, but that's a solid list right now.
Let's say the preview for just a little bit later. That'll be our last topic. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Jason, it's not that often that you come onto the show. You ain't the first one to get the first word. So Jason, you got to have the next word. OC talk, man. Mullen, Craddock, Arbuckle. Those seem to be the names right now, like the three major names that everybody is talking on and off of every social media site, message board, whatever the case may be. Who's your guy and why, or will all three work? Just however you want to go off on that subject, go ahead.
Well, I think if you're choosing between those three guys, it would have to be, you would want it to be Dan Mullen, I think, because we're talking about one of 16 head coaches in SEC history with 100 wins. So he's also coached a pair of number one draft picks, that kind of stuff. So to me, I think it's a no-brainer if you could possibly go get him. But it doesn't seem like that's really looking like that's going to go down. It almost seems to me like it's not going to happen when it comes to him. They are, listen, Coach Venables didn't say that it was over yet. He almost did. The body language that I read was that wasn't really very possible. And then we heard what the sideline reporter at Tulsa said the other day, which is that he told him when he asked him about it, he was like, Don't be pumping me up for no OC job. And then I've even heard, worse stuff than that came out of him saying like, why would I go help a guy that I could get his job next year? So this is a kind of an example of what you need to be as a SEC coach. We got to get a little dirty. It's time to start getting a little dirtier. I think that you're going to have to do that. I think if it's between those three, I would definitely say that I like Craddock the most. The more I'm looking at the Ben Arbuckle deal, it doesn't look terrible. He's got John Mateer would probably almost certainly come with him. He's good, a little quarterback, man. I like the way. I mean, I don't love that they lost to UNM last week, but they still put up pretty good numbers, and he looks really good. But the thing is that they're playing a Mountain West schedule, so I have to also, temper those stats and everything else with the fact that they're playing the Mountain West. It's not like they've played Murderer's Row this year. They've lost a game to New Mexico, and then of course they lost the other game. Now they have 3 losses? I think it's 3 losses now. 2 losses? Is just okay? So yeah, they lost the other one to just Boise State, right? Still, to me, I think if I'm picking between, I would obviously go with Mullen if I could, but I think at this moment I would be going with Craddock. I think that he's probably the best quarterback guy as far as coaching quarterbacks is concerned. Chances are, but I don't know how. I honestly don't know how realistic that one is either, because of the fact that he wants to bring his offensive line coach, which is his best friend, and like a co-coordinator there at Tulane with him. He wants to bring him. I guess that's a package deal. That would mean that you're going to have to either ship Bedenbaugh or give him another gig. And I don't think that that's even in the thoughts for Coach Venables. In fact, and it shouldn't be. Not with – you're already having a hard enough time keeping this class together, apparently. So I don't think that that's – I think it's pretty clear what he said yesterday in his press conference that they're basically – he was sending out messages to the offensive guys in that class that this is an anomaly, a one-off year. It's not going to be like this at Oklahoma forever. They're doing whatever they got to do. And talking about, Bill Bedenbaugh, that he's going to bring in the real deal. I agree with that. I would tend to agree with that as well. So, yeah, some of the other names that you're starting to hear pop up, though, which is actually kind of, there's a couple of new names that have kind of hit the a little bit, was like the Evan McKissack. And that Evan McKissack is, of course, the offensive line coach. But no, they were talking about Buster Faulkner, Georgia Tech. That's a running game. They don't throw the ball very well. Of course, they don't really have a very good passing quarterback either at Georgia Tech. So I don't know that it's just because they can't. But I don't know that one really moves it for me either, though. To me, I still don't – I feel like you still have to go and make a big name say no. I think you have to do it.
So, all right. So the buzz I got is that Colton Ecke and Stein have said no.
Okay.
Okay.
How many times? How many times there, Mr. Mason?
For what it sounds like, those engagements happened and they went nowhere.
Right.
Okay. Now I know that's a scheduling thing. Maybe their agent's saying, my guy's not going to talk to you until my team is done with the season. They're in the playoffs. He doesn't want this distraction or whatever. I don't know. Could be one of those. Could it be one of those circumstances? And for a non-head coaching job, OU can't wait. They've got too much they need to get done in December off that. So it sounds like Mullen's, Mullen's agent was trying to pump up the job to see if Mullen would take it. And that kind of got crossways between OU and Mullen's agent. But it doesn't sound like Mullen's an option at this point. I think it just push came to shove. He just wants a head coaching job. He doesn't want to try the assistant profile. The name I think we probably will hear bubble up a little bit more. I think if Craddock is, there was a while folks thought that Craddock was more interested in the FSU job. Now the FSU sites are saying that's not true. He's using FSU as a smokescreen. He wants the OU job. I'm like, all right, okay. But it sounds to me like the buzz I got from a source is that the Arbuckle guy has just been extremely impressive with the OU people. And then
the guy was a high school coach 4 years ago.
Well, I don't. He is obviously he's not a 10-year veteran offensive coordinator, college coach. This is the risk reward Brent has in front of him, right?
Yeah.
Every counter you have, Jason, the only answer is, yep, you're right. But he has been. He doesn't have. Washington State got rated of talent, right? With this whole, just like Oregon State got rated, right? Washington State got rated with this whole thing. Again, the Indiana guys, I think the problem is they're in the playoffs. You can't. They don't want to talk.
Are they in the playoffs? I don't think they're in the playoff if they. And that's the other thing I was going to bring up is that Brent Venables didn't act like he cared if they were in the playoff. He just wanted to make sure that he had them in place as far as hired. He doesn't.
Right, but I think he needs to announce them, right?
Yeah,
and he needs to set his coaching roster. But I think the problem is that their agents are telling OU they don't want to talk until their season's over. Okay. I think that's the case. Plus, Shanahan isn't a QB guy, so that's a problem there. I think it's a good, we'll see. Maybe one of the Indiana guys, maybe Shanahan decides if they get blitzed by Ohio State that maybe he's willing to talk. He's willing to seriously talk now. But I think Craddock, maybe he's FSU. He sees FSU as an easier path than OU. ACC defenses versus ACC defenses
versus the SEC. Absolutely.
Yeah. The offense, comparison I think is definitely easier. Give OU an ACC schedule for crying out loud. Shanahan could certainly hire a QB coach. He could hire the best QB coach he wants out there. But the issue I think with Indiana, again, I think the issue with some of these guys is they're not ready to talk right now so that they could be named December 2nd. And OU can't wait much more than that. So,
you basically got a hard line of hiring somebody by like the 9th, right? Signing day.
The signing day is the 5th. I don't know why people keep saying the 9th.
Right? Yeah, the 5th.
The 9th is when the portal opens.
The portal opens on the 9th.
I think if Brett could announce one of these guys December 2nd, like if Colton Ecke said, hey, let me finish my season, but yeah, you could announce me 12-2, then it'd be like, okay, no problem. But I think the problem they're running into is that these guys are saying, I'm not ready to interview. I'm too focused on what I'm currently doing.
Yeah, but that's a smoke screen too. That all depends on how much. Maybe they don't want the job, and that's what they're using.
Well, you can only engage so far. Jason. That's. Sure. I think it's Arbuckle, Craddock, and I think if they feel like they just flat out feel like Arbuckle is too inexperienced.
Which I think, and that's the other thing that I don't understand this whole love with the Shanahan. First off, it's not Mike Shanahan, Super Bowl, or Kyle's family member. It's not the same clan. So let's relax a little bit on that.
Well, it might be the same
Indiana
clan.
Hasn't played anyone, no one.
Well, they're the hot name, so it's understandable why they're getting a push. I understand that. I understand it. If you feel like Arbuckle's resume is not deep enough, then I think you may find yourself back talking to Spavital.
Spavital isn't. Yeah.
I watched Baylor the other day. I felt kind of dirty doing it.
I've been watching a lot of teams lately
during the bye week. In the bye week, and they're toting the rock. They don't have a lot of talent on that roster on offense.
Mhm.
They're toting the rock. Aranda's defense isn't playing great. And they're moving the ball. Their quarterback is efficient. He's able to move the ball around. You've got to announce this guy 12-2. You have to announce him by 12-2.
I don't agree with that. I don't know that I agree with that. I think as long as they know that they're coming, you don't necessarily have to announce it. You can let your players know, and it's going to get leaked no matter what.
Okay, so if we're talking a de facto announcement versus an official announcement,
Chris, let me ask you.
You need a de facto answer by 12-2.
Okay, fine. But let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Why are we selling Oklahoma so damn short here? It's OU. QBU. It's 1 year, guys. 1 year.
I think a lot of people,
guys.
I agree with you, Jason. I agree with you on that. I think I agree with Chris Mason too, but I'm leaning more towards you. I think that you can name the guy and then go from there. I mean, hell, even if you got Dan Mullen's not hitting the trail to go in. He may hit the trail to go see these kids, but I could damn sure bet you he's telling them, yeah, I'm going to have this guy or that guy come in and, this is going to be my passing game coordinator, this and that. He's going to be a guy that's going to be really, really hands-on with you guys. I am going to be there. I'm going to push you and stuff, but I'm going to have this guy. But at the same time, I would prefer a guy be in place. December 2nd, go ahead and get that hoopla out of the way. But I think you could just name a guy and go from there. But I mean, and I think
we agree. We agree, right? The portal opens December 9th. OU has serious production they need to get out of the portal. I mean, everybody. Okay, let's just call it what it is. Anybody who's not playing in the playoffs, starting in the playoffs, is going to be in the portal starting December 9th, right? I mean, the names we want, which we went through last week, right?
Again, back channeling it, I don't see how that's a problem.
But but you've got to have the guy named. I mean, he's got to be named.
Why do you?
But back channels mean crap. Back channels mean crap in terms of if you want a portal quarterback committing to OU, you've got to have the offensive coordinator named.
But I don't even know that you necessarily need to keep it under wraps either, though. Like what Benji said, I don't even know why you have to keep it under wraps, even if, like, what? So it's gonna be a distraction for the team. Is that what we're talking about? This shit is
no. We're talking strictly. We need to roll back. So the first guys that are going to hear about this are going to be the recruits, right? Then the team, right? And then you need to make an official announcement during signing day week so that December 9th, when the portal hits, your offensive staff is for the most part established. If you're still looking for a tight end coach, so be it. All right? No big deal, right? But we all basically think we need a quarterback from the portal, right? And if it's going to be, and even if it's an arranged marriage through our new offensive coordinator, the guy's got to get in the portal and he's got to know publicly that my guy is at this place. He signed a contract. I mean, this is what we're talking about, and this is no longer. This is the world we're dealing with. NIL contracts. I mean, the kids are going to sign. The high school kids are going to sign NIL contracts on signing day, not letters of intent. Basically, they're going to sign a meaningless, grant and aid paperwork from the university. But the only thing that's going to.
That's what the front office is for, is it not?
Well, but that's a different point. I'm just saying that you could disagree with me all you want, but I'm saying that you have got to ideally after the LSU, after the Bama game.
I'm disagreeing, really. I'm just asking.
Oh, sorry. Well, as I understand it, Jason, with the letter of intent being demolished, on Wednesday, December 5th, the kids will sign grant and aid paperwork,
Correct.
which is the scholarship part of the university. Like that's your academic.
That's what locks you in, though, too. That's what locks you in.
What doesn't lock you in, that doesn't, it just gives you that. But what will lock you in is the NIL contract you sign. And once you sign that, you can't be contacted by other universities. That's my understanding on how this works.
Okay.
That's and it's no one has come out with like a solid NCA document saying how all this works. I've heard misrepresentations of signing day from folks who really should have the lockdown information, and none of the sites have it, so it's still pretty confusing. But as I understand it, on signing day, you can sign grant and aid paperwork, which gets you your scholarship, and you will sign an NIL deal.
I'm pretty sure that the scholarship part is and the financial aid is what locks you into the school, but it's neither here nor there.
It hasn't in the past, though, Jason, because in the past, guys have done this and it didn't lock them in the way the letter of intent did. Maybe they've changing that.
But the letter of intent I don't even think there is a letter of intent anymore, though. That's
so they've abolished it. But in the past, you could sign a grant and aid paperwork, but it didn't mean you couldn't sign another grant and aid paperwork. You could other schools could still contact you. So Steve G's got a question, which I'll get to I'll get to real quick.
Go.
The roster crunch. It all depends how many walk-ons OU's willing to keep on the program.
That's a walk-on problem. That's a light issue.
OU's been managing to 85 scholarships for the last 25, 30 years. Brent, the question is, are the 20 guys above the 85 worth keeping on the roster versus purging the roster of the walk-ons that aren't really helping and signing additional true Power 4 prospects? And how do you manage that transition? But the offensive coordinator, one last thing. I didn't mention this when you were with us, Jason. Chris and I talked about this a little bit. I get the sense that Arbuckle is viewed as kind of for lack of a better word, Zach Alley of the offense.
Okay. And listen, he's growing on me. Arbuckle is growing on me, especially with the quarterback that would be coming with him. He's growing on me. Again, I think that it's a little risky. No, it's Kchris that's ball. He just went and showed
so. I'm sorry, Jason. I'm sorry, Jason.
No, you should be sorry to yourself. You just showed that you were ball, bro. You just showed that you were like LeBron dunked on you.
So I mean, I'd like the fact Arbuckle is, Arbuckle's from Texas. He's got Texas connections. Mateer has Texas connections. So that makes that move a little more like it's a little less unseemly if we're even caring about it at this point, which I'm not sure we are. But I think that's where Arbuckle has come in. I mean, I watched some Washington State film. I can't say I've been a junkie and watched 40 hours of it, but man, they're just scheming guys open left and right, and they're making big plays and guys running with the ball. So it looks efficient. Will it have problems adjusting to the SEC? I don't know. I think his experience level and how does that work in the SEC are both legit questions. But the Mateer kid can play quarterback. That kid can play quarterback.
He can, but they're going to have to. I don't love the only thing that I really don't like that I've seen is the split. It's 60-40 pass to run. I think you got to run the ball more. But I would just say that, in the end, if you could bring in a guy that's going to be able to play well, but do you really trust that Mateer is we talked about this infusion of money for the NIL. Is that really going to be the one? Is that really going to be the guy that we want as the quarterback? I mean,
well, let's I'll be honest. I think this year the level of quarterback play in college football is pretty bad. If you're not Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Carson Beck was supposed to be the number one quarterback in this class, right? And for 3/4 of the season, he's looked like crap. That's not a lot of superstar quarterbacks, I think, in the class and playing college football right now. If you ask me, who the top 5, I'm trying to imagine who would be in the portal that's not going to be in the NFL draft. That's going to be a super elite guy that you can steal from somewhere. And I'm having a hard time coming up with any names.
Start tampering, man.
Well, I'm okay.
Come up with
all right. So Jason, who's the 5 guys who won't go to the NFL that you would tamper tomorrow?
5? Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a good question.
I like that
guy. I like the backup quarterback at Ole Miss a lot. The left.
Well, he's not played.
He played really well against Georgia. You did see that, right?
I did. But that was a quarter.
I don't care. I like him. You're asking me who I like, who I would tamper for. Who is the guy that's out there right now? Maybe. We haven't seen a whole lot out of many people that are going to be around. Well, we're going to go get Carson Beck. He's looked terrible. I don't want nothing to do with Quinn.
Right. Okay. So I'm just saying, if you go through college football, I'm with you. If you go through college football right now, I don't think the quarterback
I like
class,
the BC kid too. The Castellanos kid is pretty damn good. And he's already in the portal, right? Or he's already announced.
Yeah, but he's not without warts, right? Because he just lost his starting job.
Yeah, and then the other one that we've talked a lot about the kid down at Darian Mensah. I like him.
Yeah, but is he following?
That's Craddock though. I like Craddock, man. I think that if I'm picking between these guys, this is where we're at, and assuming you're not going to get Mullen. Because if you get Mullen, I think you change anything.
Mullen's out. Mullen's out in the parking lot with his agent. Just ignore him for now.
Okay, fine. Yeah, assuming you're not going to get Mullen, I say that you see if it is bullshit for this, what's been going on with Craddock or not, and make the move there. Because I think that he's also still young, but he's got more skin on the wall than the other kid. The other kid's 4 years out of being a high school coach, and a coordinator in high school, not even a head coach.
But what he runs would fit with our talent base, and our recruiting base. So I'm just letting you know that there is Mr. Neal. Obviously, I don't think that's. I'm not going to argue with Dusty Dvorak. So if he said that, he said
a lot of stuff, though.
But he says lots of stuff. So he said, "Oh, you should get Dan Mullen," and that's not happening either. So, and he's a defensive guy.
This is a fair statement too. I know that you're not as high on him as I am, and I don't know where Kchris is at on it, but I think that Hawkins is going to be the right guy. But what you do have to do is bring somebody in that's going to really push him for the job, and the best man wins it. I think that's what you need.
But there's nothing on paper right now that. Okay, there's nothing on paper right now to justify that you think Michael Hawkins can lead you to 8 SEC wins next year.
No, there's film from the Tennessee game that shows him throwing balls where he's throwing guys open, layering guys. Hey, you keep on making that face every time I bring it up, and you're not making me a little mad there, Mr. Mason. No, look.
And I got 4
things that we've still not seen from JA this year. I don't know why it is that we stick with Jackson Arnold here like he's done something. The dude had 70 yards last week. 70.
Well, it's only because he let El
He had a fucking punter that had a 15-yard completion, and he didn't have one. Come on, man.
The last time we saw Michael Hawkins on the field, he was losing 21 points in 5 minutes.
Okay, fine. That was the one game. You know how many times have we seen JA do this?
He was awful in the Texas game.
that was on him. Okay, we're moving off of Seth, I guess. It's not, none of this is on Seth or anything else.
No, I mean, it's all on Seth. To me, I give all of the to me, I give every stat and every player we have a mulligan for the first 7 games of the year. Okay, if we're going to do that, I'm fine with doing that with everybody. You know,
we just watched Jackson Arnold throw the game away when they had all you had to do was kneel on it.
Well, he just fumbled the game away.
Okay,
same day. Didn't throw a pick 6 this time. Could have thrown a pick 6.
Hawkins is
I'm
gonna stick with Hawkins on my feelings on the thing, and I think that he has the ability.
I like him as a prospect. I like him as a quarterback prospect. I loved him out of high school. I just concerned I don't know what he's been coached the last year. And if you're Brent Venables, you cannot trust your job on what you've seen from any of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen Hawkins since Seth left, though. That's all I was saying.
Well, I think I would like to think we'll see Seth. We'll see Hawkins at some point in the next 2 games, but I don't know. So,
Captain JFA, he ain't coming out, man. I don't get that part either. But that's a tip to the cap. Thank you for trying to be a good soldier in your final home game at OU. Thanks for some parting gifts and some. I mean, to me, you're arguing JFA and Hawkins versus quarterbacks like Mensa, Mateer, and other guys who have more experience and are being more productive. And I don't think that's not. Yeah.
You hit the mute button.
Could you hire the right guy? Like, could you hire Craddock and all of a sudden Mensa and Hawkins are in a spring battle for quarterback? Sure. But okay, I'll give 6 for Chevy. I agree with what he's saying. I agree what you're saying. It's just I'm Brent. My job's on the line. I'm not betting on Jackson Arnold or Hawkins at all. I can't bet on either one of them. If they beat out a guy we bring in, fantastic.
Well,
but I'm bringing in somebody
to start with. I think whoever it is needs to win the damn job.
I think it is. You need to win the damn job, and you tell whoever stays you're competing for the job. Beat them. If you want to be the starter, go beat them. But I think, you cannot go into next fall with both of those guys as your only quarterback option if they both stay.
Here's a comment that I'm just a little bit tired of. Guys, we're in a different era, man. We're in the NIL era. We're in the era where players are leaving, players are basically quitting and enter the portal with 7 games, 8 games, 9 games left. We're in a place where it's either put up or shut up. Guys are having to grow up quick. You're not saying this about a guy like Lagway. Yes, in a perfect world, Lagway would sit for a year, maybe 2, and then be the guy, the phenom after that, right? That's how succession should be. I think people forget that the plan all along was, hey, let's get Jackson in here. Let's get him a year under his belt, just kind of watching, kind of doing this or whatever the case may be. Was there a mistake made? Yes, a mistake was made when you didn't make Joe John the OC from the get-go to at least give Jackson a chance to run the same system. I think that's something that people have to understand. Losing your offensive coordinator who, regardless how us OU fans feel about him internally, he was giving you top 10, top 5 offensive numbers, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to have to play these kids at some point. You can't sit there and hamstring them anyways, because at the end of the day, if Dylan stays, maybe our record is better. Maybe this happens or whatever the case may be.
Better, guys? How much better? Come on.
But I get that, but that's not the point. The point is that, if Dylan's here, then maybe we're better. Maybe we're marginally better, whatever the case may be. But if Dylan's still here, J.A.'s not playing.
Fact.
So J.A. comes back this next year off of 2 years of just straight rust, and then he looks just like this, and then we're in the same spot. You get what I'm saying? So I just don't think that this comment is – you can't really do that anymore not that much unless you have a guy. I think a lot of Texas fans would probably rather see Arch, but they respect the fact that, hey, Quinn has been here. He's 3 years into this offense. Even though he starts slow and sometimes it takes him forever to get into a rhythm, he's still our guy, right? Like, we have that luxury. Other places you have the luxury, but right now you just didn't.
Yeah, he's got to go take an antidepressant first before he plays well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you, in terms of how the OC decision, I think it's Craddock, Spavital, or Arbuckle in some order. Brent is basically betting his job on the hire. Obviously, a lot of people are wincing at Arbuckle because it sure sounds familiar from a guy that we all hate right now. Down to the small Texas high school where he's from. Now, it's a different small Texas high school town. But I think that hurts Arbuckle. Again, I think the experience and the offensive style questions are completely justified. But if Brent feels like he's the guy and feels like he will click with his staff, he'll click, and he's a good play caller, and he likes what he sees on film, then I think somebody said, well, what if we get what if he's just like Lincoln Riley? I'm like, so we're going to go to the playoffs 3 times. We're going to get back-to-back Heismans. I'll take that, right, after what we just saw. So I think there's a question of fit there. And like I said, Arbuckle, if he wins it, it's because he's just been impressive as all hell with the plan of what he's going to do with our offense, and take over, and what he's going to do. So I think Craddock is probably the more experienced fit. I get that. The issue with his offensive line guy, making the tight end coach. You can coach O-line tight ends and do the double O-line coach thing with Bill. See if that'll work. I don't see why that couldn't work. But I think the Craddock FSU thing is the thing that's it's a little bizarre to me. But to me, I wouldn't shock me if this isn't rolled back and we're not hearing about Spavital as more experience than Arbuckle, better connections in Texas than Craddock, and is not wavering as much, and will fit in with our current roster of coaches beautifully and set us up to do what we need to do. So we'll see what happens. There's a Caden Bell has been thrown around by Pete Nakos, national writer, the offensive coordinator at Pittsburgh. He's less experienced than Arbuckle. He's got an Alabama transfer quarterback, Eli Holstein, that's got Pitt going. So that name's been thrown around. And as you said, Jason, the Georgia Tech guy, I'm here in Atlanta. I watch Georgia Tech. They got like no passing game there. He's doing it with smoke and mirrors and just a super tough offensive line. And the offensive line guy is really their head ball coach. He's their O-line coach. Their head coach is an old offensive line guy. So that's really why Tech's winning games just had a grit and just running over people. That they don't have a lot of, I'm not sure that works against Georgia, and the defensive lines that we see having that little a passing game. So Jason, you're right. This is tough. This is not a great market of offensive coordinators out there, and 14 teams being in the playoff has reduced some of the available guys even further in terms of their availability.
Fences, though, I still think you got to swing for the fences, and I don't know if it's because we're not really doing that or if it's because we're really being told no. I mean, they're quiet about it. I know you're hearing what you're hearing. We've all heard something. But it feels to me like I don't know why you have a hard time if you're Oklahoma getting guys. It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think they're having a hard time. I just think the names, I think that the playoffs and the portal have made this a more difficult situation than in years past. In years past, you'd have two guys who might be saying to you, nah, I've got something going on. I can't talk to you. And you could sign a class and with letter of intent in mid-December, and you'd be fine. I mean, signing days moved up, and the portal is much more important. So everything's been moved up. So you're almost in a list of guys that you can get. It's like, I'm an old philosophy logic guys. Do you know what Venn diagrams are? There's circles. You basically circle. Yeah. There's circles, right? So the problem is offensive coordinators we want, right, is one circle, right? And then in the playoffs is another circle, reducing the group even further. And then willing to talk to us about willing to sign willing to have a contract done by December 2nd is another Venn diagram, right? So it's almost that the group it's a small group to begin with, and then it's and then the two other factors of the portal, signing day. If we had a shitty recruiting class, it would be fine. But we legitimately have elite playmakers at running back, wide receiver, and offensive line, including 2 NFL bookend tackles, right? And Emmanuel Choice just got moved to the top 100 on 3 in their rankings. So we have 3 wide receivers who are top 100 type talents. So, and our biggest problems are at O-line and wide receiver. And then we're talking about a running back who is, Torrey Blaylock's had a fantastic senior year. I mean, the guy's a jet. He's a perfect complement to the other guys we have in terms of a speed home run hitter. So if we had a shitty recruiting class, this would be much easier. But you don't want to lose all those pieces, and it makes that and signing day moved up a week makes it more difficult. And then the portal opening makes it even more difficult because we know we want to probably, depending upon who we lose, we want a wide receiver, a quarterback, and at least one offensive tackle. But you can't be signing an offensive tackle if you don't know who your O-line coach is.
That's true.
I mean, you can't grab elite portal offensive tackle if we're like, well, who's going to be my O-line coach? No, we don't know yet. We haven't hired our offensive coordinator yet.
Can't do it. You get that.
You can't do the same thing at wide receiver, right? Who's going to be my wide receiver coach?
Why would you?
And we need a tight end, for crying out loud, so badly. We at least should be able to say, the name being thrown around at tight end coach for Arbuckle is interesting. Brian Lepak, the K-State tight end coach.
Oh, that would work wonders. Because what did Lyman say? We don't have tight ends. We have H-backs. We need tight ends.
We don't use tight ends. So
yeah.
So I think that's why I think you guys are right. We are Oklahoma. We should have guys falling over themselves for this job, right? We should be able to go talk to Will Stein or Colton Nacky, right? We should be able to take that all the way. But with the playoff and the portal and the money they're making and their agents telling us either no or some combination of no or maybe talk to me in January, which is just too late for us. I mean, it's just, I hate saying that. Everyone's like, well, it shouldn't matter when you hire them. All the other mechanisms in college football, in terms of the calendar, mean when you hire them is important. We need a name at least leaked by 12/2, right? Leaked ESPN, whoever the name is on whatever website, our, Scoop, Insider 247 all need to be leaking the same name on 12/2. This is going to be our offensive coordinator. And then but if the contract takes until the following Saturday to have the press conference, that's fine. But Brent should be able to tell folks who's staying, who's going, and who's being hired.
So people, whenever that does happen, trust and believe all 3 of us will be here.
We're not going to like it. We're all 3 of us not going to like it on some level.
Yeah. No, we'll be here. We'll be here.
I don't remember Lincoln Riley being universally acclaimed as the guy that when he got hired.
It was just so surreal when Bob Stoops just out of nowhere just did all of that. It's just like, huh? But then when he left, it was just so surreal as well. But let's not get into that. But what I'll say is that people will be here for that. We've been on here for an hour, guys.
Real quick, Dilligaff asked a good question though. Talking about I think people need to understand the rosters are going to be not necessarily smaller. It means you're going to have less walk-ons. That sucks for walk-ons, But this is not going to be something that affects the big boys.
Right. And to be clear,
Okie Light has to worry about this, not Oklahoma.
the SEC is saying 85 scholarships only for next year. That's what they've said. That's the guidance Stanky gave all SEC schools. I want you managing to 85 scholarship players next year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if he sticks to that and how it all blends out. But, the 105 number just means that, I think OU has like 125 guys on the roster or something like that.
And one more thing, I mean, guys, we've
a lot of them are those walk-on guys, right?
Yeah, a lot of them, the Duke walk-on guys. We've got probably 20. We've got like 10 preferred walk-ons that are worth a scholarship.
You can only have 85 scholarship players now.
Right. But they're saying we've got probably about 10. If we can stick at 105 without a problem. The issue becomes once everyone can have 105 scholarship players, what do we do with our preferred walk-on program then?
Again, I don't know that that's a huge deal for SEC programs.
No, I don't think so either. It's more of a logistics transition thing than anything else.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to take us to Alabama game?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, let's briefly break that down. Just to throw my 2 cents in here. Like I said yesterday, I reiterated, I think our defense plays well. I think, obviously, I think this is a game where, I'm going to pick OU. I picked them 23-17 yesterday. Call me crazy. Jason, look, I can't go against my boys, man. I just can't. That ain't the homer. That's just the thug in me, bro. I gotta go with my guys, man. I'm not gonna say me. I've never been a dude. I don't care who it is. I don't back down from nobody. I fear no man except for God. So I say, hey, bring it on, boomer, baby. But no, realistically, I mean, if we're just being real, I think this is gonna play out like every other game has played out for us this year when we played against some of the better teams, right? I can see this game being kind of like an Ole Miss style of game where we go out there and do some good offensively early on in the game, and then after that it just really stalls, right? Defensively, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Defensively, I think you could put him in a lot of passing situations. I think you could possibly take away the run. You can't come out there trying to run like a 3-3-5 or a 3-man front. You can't do that, obviously. But if you could keep him from Milroe from adding to that rush game with Haynes and Miller, with how good that is already, I think you'll be fine. But defensively, put him in obvious pass situations. But you're gonna have to. This is a game where you have to, as we said it last week, put Eli on the island by himself with the young phenom over there, Ryan Williams, and just take your chances with that because you can't put anybody else on there. Woody, if Woody gets caught on any of their better wide receivers, because they have a good wide receiver core, that's the case. That's it. But at the end of the day, I think our defense, Allie, BV, I think they'll have some good, so a lot of stuff dialed up. I think that they'll be okay on that side. It's people, man, it's literally offensively. I just don't know. I really don't know. It looks like Deion Burks is probably going to be out this game. Whatever Farouk can give us, that'd be great. But I don't know if it's going to be that much. So we're kind of back at square one.
Well, he's not listed on the report. So
really, okay.
Farouk isn't, and neither is Sawchuk, and neither is Tarquin. So
yeah,
that's 3 big upgrades from when we last played.
I was gonna say, go ahead, Chris, man.
Yeah. So we'll let Jason, have the apocalyptic final words. From the fact that this last home game, I would say something along the lines of 23-13 Bama. OU barely covers. I'd like to see both quarterbacks play. I'd like to see Michael Hawkins under Joe John Finley so that we've got something to compare since the the debacle with South Carolina and the Seth Luttrell play calling. I think if you could get Hawkins on the field with some run game, that could make we need big plays, guys, right?
You have to. That's how you.
We've got to get some
team.
You've got to get some big plays, and Hawkins' feet is one of our bigger plays. It opens up maybe the running game going a little bit. So, but I think the defense will play well. I think if the defense plays well and we don't, Milroe's an enigma, right? He's mid game and short game accuracy's terrible, but he throws accurate bombs. It's kind of crazy, but that does worry me because we give up big plays in the passing game, and they've got Ryan Williams who makes big plays in the passing game. So it does worry me a little bit there. But as long as we can hang close in the first half, I think it's something like 23-13. Again, but if we can pay off touchdowns instead of field goals in the red zone, you've got to do everything right. Even Steven on the turnovers and convert touchdowns when you get in the red zone. And, maybe you can get lucky, get it real close, and Zach Schmidt can hit a 56-yard field goal to win the game or something. But I don't think Bama, everyone's like, well, Bama's found their stride. I'm like, they've also started playing worse teams. So, it's a little bit of that because we know Missouri's a fraud.
Fraudulent. Yeah.
Fraudulent. We did everything to give the game away, and we still should have won it. So I think Bama's rebound is a little bit playing some worse teams. Sexton's out. Sexton's not coming back this year, guys. He's done. I don't think we'll see Taylor again. I think Taylor's done as well. But we've got Tarquin back, so we'll have Tarquin and Howland at tackle, which for right now is better than. Which is much better
than what Tarquin's been, or damn sure better than Brown.
Oh yeah, it's a massive upgrade to have Tarquin over Brown, and Howland's starting the rest of these games this year. There's no reason not to start him, and put Tarquin in at right tackle. So, maybe we see some more EPL. I don't know. There's a chance. The final home game. I think we could see some more younger guys getting action depending upon how things go, but. You asked me for an actual answer. I'll stick with 23-13, and our quarterbacks. We end up settling for two. We end up settling for 2 field goals, which cost us. We should put have 2 drives. We'll end up having with some drives where we don't pay off the points we should, and that'll cost us the game.
Yeah. It's not going to be that good. It's not going to be that good, guys. I don't know what we're feeling good about this game for. Whenever we got Jackson Arnold going in and he had 70 damn yards passing against a worse damn defense than what they're about to go up against. This Alabama defense has been very good over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Not just kind of good, very good. They're one of the best teams in the country on defense over the last 4 or 5 weeks. They figured it out on showing one thing, giving you another. They're doing good against the run. They're definitely doing well against the pass. Okay, Kchris, I told you this last night. I watched it. Look, the one chance that you have to make this competitive is you better freaking get Milroe off of his spot and do not let him get out of the backfield. He's under 2,000 yards for the season passing. He's got 15 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, but he's got 17 rushing touchdowns. If you let him get off on foot, you're fucked all the way fucked. He will kill you with his arm if he gets off with the legs. I feel like it's closer to that. You're lucky if you get that. Maybe you get 30. Maybe you get 14 points. I don't trust in it because they're not playing the right guy. I would much rather see Casey go in there than Jackson Arnold right now. But I want to see Hawkins, but I damn sure do not want to see Jackson Arnold in the game. I think that he's broken. I think the dude's broken. I'm not hating on the guy. I just think he's broke. But I'm telling you this, if you don't find a way to keep Milroe in the backfield, it'll be over by halftime.
So we'll give us a score. So he did like 30-6, something like that.
I'll say 35-13.
Okay.
I mean, I hate to say it, man, but until I see an offense go out there on the damn field, how can I say they're going to be okay and they're going to put some offense out there?
I mean, I think all of us are saying the same thing about that, is that at some point the offense is going to stall. I think that you'll have maybe some early success, but for me, I told Ty this yesterday. I said, hey, for me, Ty said, no, I think establishing a run is what is key in this game for OU. Obviously, yeah, we could say that. But to me, when I watch Bama this year, I say, hey, your secondary is freaking talented. Like you got a great mix of kind of what we thought the offensive line would be, which would be
throw the damn ball.
Well, yes, Jason, hold on. We thought that the offensive line would be talented mixed with being veteran savvy with some of the portal guys that you got, but that hasn't panned out. But that's just kind of what I'm trying to compare that as saying that's how I would that's how I would describe that secondary for Alabama. Talented is all get out. Have some veterans in there. The talent mixes really well with those veterans that are in there. Some of the guys that got from the portal. But the thing is that they're very opportunistic. They want to jump on some passes. They want to bite on certain things. They can get sloppy with their technique at times. If you throw on them, you can throw on them. We've seen the Carson Becks, guys like that, who I'm not going to sit here and say that he's just on the Mount Rushmore or great or whatever. It's not bad, but the guy has, we've seen teams be able to throw the ball on this Bama secondary. We don't throw the ball anyway. So that's why I told Ty, I say at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because we don't throw the ball down the field regardless. If we do, we're taking maybe one or two shots to Hester and then that's it. So, it's just one of those things where it's just like, what could be their Achilles heel, we won't even really test it.
Well, I had I'm not even gonna say that, man.
Since we had Marcus Dupree on the show the other morning. We were asking him if he had any eligibility left. He does not. Sadly,
he does have eligibility left. He doesn't have any hips left.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have eligibility left. He was a pro.
Well, technically, he has college eligibility left.
I know.
If the silly
he did say, hey man, you get me down by the goal line, I'm good for a few yards, I'll get it in.
Well, there we go.
By the way, that was a fun interview, man. Marcus Dupree, bro. That was great.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's again, until we see one of the two quarterbacks play an effective offensive game against an SEC opponent for 60 minutes, it's hard to imagine that that's magically just going to happen.
Oh.
If they do, if you can and play
Max Swearingen
and play mistake-free football from turnover perspective, right?
I will say this, because of what Xavier Robinson did, maybe what Max Swearingen's talking about, he needs the majority of the carries. You better give the dude 20 carries. Give the dude 20 carries. And is this not a fireable offense? What happened there when it comes to DeMarco?
It's not necessarily the fact that you give him 20 carries is what you do after that, because hell, against Missouri, there was a drive or two down there. I think Chris Mason talked about it after the game. There's a couple of drives where you're like, hey, you're moving the ball with X. Keep running it. The commentators are saying, run the ball until they show you they can stop it. Oh, no, we run a tight end screen. Oh, no, we run a tight end delay. Oh, no, we're running a jet sweep with Bauer Sharp. What are we doing?
Tunnel screens with Bauer Sharp. It was fantastic play calling. Fantastic.
I'm just like Joe Judge. Don't do that. Don't do that.
It's almost like it almost makes you waiting for OU Confidential 24, how the offensive coordinators conspired to sink the season. Like someone writes a conspiracy book that our offensive coordinators were deliberately conspiring to sink our season. Yeah, I mean, I think you run X-Rob. You've got multiple. If Barnes can't go, run X-Rob and blend in Tatum and Sawchuk, and if you could run the ball 40, 50 times a game, frickin' do it. But you've got to be getting enough first downs and enough possession to actually do that.
Well, but I mean, Jackson,
you probably need to run the ball and slow it down.
It's one thing to say that, but you can go 3 and out running the ball 3 times as easy as you can.
Yeah,
if you can throwing the ball, right?
Yeah.
So it's just
they've got to
25 seconds.
They're going to have to throw it down the field.
They're going to have to get. They got to get some big plays. You cannot drive 14 plays. This offense doesn't have the execution discipline to do that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they loaded the box. Nilio, this was a great comment. If a team is going to be successful versus that Bama D, they've got to be able to show that they can have success down the field. It's got to happen in order to set up the running back. That's what I'm saying. You got to be able to throw. You throw at their secondary. You make those. As talented as they are, they tend to make a lot of mistakes. They're a very opportunistic group. They love to try to jump and make big plays. You can punish them with that. We just don't have the guy right now. People, look, we've been on here for 1 hour and 16 minutes. We've talked about OU recruiting. We've talked about the OC search. Well, our thoughts about that. We've answered questions on here, guys. We talked about the Bama game. Me and Jason got OU winning. You already know what's going on. Chris Mason, not so much, So,
So we'll make sure Jason wears a hat next week so you guys will stop freaking out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But guys, look, obviously you're watching this on the Horns Down podcast and the Hall of Fame College Football podcast. Definitely go over there and check out Sooners 360, the Patreon, all the rest of that stuff. How much is the Patreon, Chris Mason?
It is only $2 and is a free trial option for 30 days. So you can get a feel for what I'm publishing.
No fluff, straight facts. That's how we like to say it right there. So with that being said, people, I think it's time for us to get off of here and go to sleep. Peace.